Yo, we got a show for you tonight on tonight's podcast, the Klown podcast. First of all, we're going to get into the NBA playoffs. Obviously, we got the playing games, so I think are fun. Other people think not. I'll tell you why I think it's fun. And we'll break down the rest of, well, as we see fit, how the first round we think is going to shape out, storylines surrounding that as well. And we're also going to touch upon some HBCU sports to do every week, a little HBCU sports segment. But we're going to spend a lot of the show talking about the gift that keeps on giving. That'll be one Kwame Brown. How hilarious is this? I mean, that he's just coming after everybody. He has had time. He's probably going to have time for a long while. So anyway, hope you all have some fun with this. Also, please subscribe to the channel. We're getting new subscribers every day. Please keep it coming. Please keep up the likes and the comments and whatnot. So until then, let's have some fun and can't wait to talk about some basketball. Good morning, got a new good evening, wherever you are, wherever it may be. Welcome to this edition of the Klown Hour podcast. You can check out my partner here, Dwayne Nash, whichever way he is, that appears on YouTube. Check him out on DR/HBCU Sports, reps about all things HBCU Sports, as well as Sleazy Riddle every Tuesday night on Facebook Live. They did a show last night. It was epic. Please check it out. Also, please check out his great work on herosports.com, where he raps about all things FCS as they pertain to HBCUs. So your boy here, please check me out on I almost said the art, the Klown Times sports blog. That's Klown spelled with K at www.theklowntimes.net. You can check me on Facebook as well. So wherever you're on a smartphone, desktop, laptop, just type in the Klown Time. You'll find me there as well. I put up a rant today regarding the playing game, actually yesterday, which I think y'all should take a look at as well. Why I believe the playing game is a cool thing. We'll get into that later on in the podcast. And last but not least, two things. Please subscribe. Hit the subscribe button there. We've been getting more subscribers to the channel. Please keep it up. I'd like some more likes, some more or dislikes. I don't care. And some comments.
As long as you're pressing a button on this page, we don't care.
We don't care because, hey, it makes us look good either way. So anyway, please do that. Hit the subscribe button. And also one last thing, get the merch. Get the merch, get the merch, get the merch.
Get the merch.
CafePress.com. Search for the Klown Time Sports. The address will be in the description below on YouTube when it gets posted tomorrow. So you can find the gear there and have some fun there as well. So we got a lot of NBA to get into since we are in the beginning of the NBA playoffs with the play-in tournament, year 2 of it. I was rapping with some of my college buddies on GroupMe, and half loved it, half hated it. Mainly because it's like the questions from the crowd that hates it says, then what's the use of the regular season? Well, I'm like, well, listen, it's for one, it makes it exciting for the fans, also gives teams less opportunities to tank, right? Because you're talking 7 through 10, places 7 through 10 qualify. And also, it also punishes teams for like being, I don't know, underachieving or sucking at the wrong time. So either way, you got to earn your keep, right? So the first, how this whole process works, for those who don't know, the first 6 seeds in each conference, they get in, no matter what. They get into the playoffs. So they don't have to worry about anything. They sit back chilling right now. It's places 7 through 8 that play for the last 2 spots, 7 and 8. So what that means is team seeded number 8 plays at team number 7. The winner of that claims the 7th seed, right? The loser plays the winner of the 9th seed hosting the 10th seed. So essentially it's almost double elimination. So basically the loser of the 7-8 game plays the winner of the 9-10 game for the right to be the number 8 seed. So hopefully that makes sense for everyone. And believe it or not, makes sense for me, so I know it can make sense for everybody else. Right, so there you go. So I think it's exciting. Like last night's games, like the Charlotte-Indiana game was a bit of a dud because it was just an ass whooping from the beginning. You can tell that Charlotte has never been there before as far as with this crop of players. They're young. They were hurt because Gordon Hayward didn't play. So now I think next year Charlotte will use experience to be a lot better. I think they'll be a lot better team next year with that because they got real young, not great, but young, good players. They have a real basketball team now. So something for Charlotte Hornets fans to finally be proud of, and Michael Jordan may be doing something right down there for a change. But I
mean, he said like 20 years of getting it wrong. Sooner or later, a broken clock is right twice a day, right? So sooner or later, he was bound to get it right.
Exactly. You would think anyway. So the lower the averages, averaged out, if you will. So they finally hit on a great draft pick in LaMelo Ball, who should be the rookie of the year.
Yeah.
And free agent signings that actually appear to pan out with Gordon Hayward and a good mix of players to go with Terry Rozier.
Another free agent pickup of theirs.
There you go. Another one. It was the first one from Boston to sign there.
Yeah.
And also the development of Devontae Graham, Malik Monk, that Bridges kid from Michigan State who could jump out the gym, has some nasty posters throughout the year. So they finally have a good team, a real basketball team in Charlotte. So there's no shame for this Hornets team to lose. It's shameful that they played terrible defense, but hey, you get overwhelmed by a seasoned Indiana squad who's also young-ish, but has playoff experience. I mean, that's a bonus kid that's out of this world. Malcolm Brogdon, when he ever gets healthy, is a problem. Curtis LeVert, when he returns from his, it may not be this year because I don't see him beating Washington, but maybe next season when he's fully healthy and out of any COVID type of protocols and whatnot, that team's going to be a problem. Indiana's going to be a problem next year. So I'm not surprised to see Indiana wreck shot the way they did. Now, I did enjoy Washington and Boston. That had the intense feel. I know you don't because you're a Bullets fan. I get it. But still, the point is, it had a real playoff feel to it. It was very intense. And it wasn't until midway through the third quarter where Boston started hitting threes like layups. And the game just got away from Washington. But they hung in as best as they could. I still think they'll beat Indiana when they play them at home in a couple of days. Well, actually tomorrow.
Tomorrow, yeah.
Yeah, so I think Washington will get the 8th seed and will play Philadelphia, which I think that'll be a great, and we'll get to the playoff matchups in a moment, but which I think will be a great storyline because you got Russell Westbrook versus Joel Embiid. And if you don't know about Westbrook and Embiid's beef, Google and YouTube. You'll thank me later. So anyway, as far as the West Conference is concerned tonight, Memphis and his hosted San Antonio right now. It's a close game right now. Doesn't have the buzz as last night's game, nor later the second game tonight. But it should be a good game anyways. Memphis is now up by 7. But how about the Golden State Warriors and Los Angeles Lakers in a play-in game? So you got a 3-time champion Golden State Warriors.
Yes.
Minus Kevin Durant and minus
Klay
Thompson. Going up against the defending champions.
Oh, don't forget, minus Andrew Bogut.
That's correct.
Minus Boogie. I'm naming bums right now. I'm naming right funny.
Yeah. But going up against the Lakers, who happen to be the defending champs, in a play-in game.
Yeah.
I mean, again, let me say that one more time. Golden State Warriors, defending champion Los Angeles Lakers, in a play-in game. So that's, to me, that's hilarious and cool at the same time. Hilarious from the standpoint that you got LeBron and his whiny ass. I love him off the court, but on the court, I can't stand him. Just whiny ass in the 7th seed, bitching about, well, whoever came up with the play-in game series should be fired. Man, shut the fuck up. Y'all voted on that shit last year. I know it's a different set of circumstances because you want to recruit money, lost money because of COVID, right? But still, the point is it turned out to be very exciting. And so what the NBA do, what do smart commissioners do? Whenever something's exciting, they seize upon it and ride with it. And guess what? It's very popular right now with fans. It's very popular with TV revenue. So look, the playing games are here to stay. Like I said earlier, if you don't want to play in the playing games, don't underachieve and don't suck.
No.
That's all you gotta do. Don't underachieve and don't suck. Because otherwise you won't have to worry about being a playing game. But hey, it's great for us fans because we get to see LeBron and Steph Curry play for the right to be the 7th seed. That's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy. But anyway, give me your thoughts on the playing game. Am I being over exuberant about the playing games, or am I like kind of on point, so to speak, as far as the excitement?
Dude, you're on point like Fife and Tip on this one.
All right.
So first and foremost, let me go back.
Represent.
Oh, more represent.
Yes,
let me go back to your Charlotte point. They should be good for the next year or two. There's not a lot of challengers in the East that will potentially face them, with the exception of, okay, if Toronto makes a move here or there, they should challenge. Right. And maybe Chicago. Chicago has a couple of young pieces there as well.
I love
the
Zach
question
LaVine.
is, what's that?
I love Zach LaVine. I love
exactly.
Him.
Exactly. So, if they can go ahead and make some moves for both those organizations, maybe they'll go ahead and continue to compete with the likes of Washington, Charlotte, and Indiana next season. But to answer your question, are you on point about the playing games? Yes. And here's why, right? You talk about the whole tanking thing.
Yeah.
First and foremost, if anything, teams should want to play for seeds 1 through 4 so they can get home court advantage for as long as possible.
Right.
So that's an attack at the whole regular season doesn't mean anything argument, right? That's one attack, right? Mm-hmm. Attack number 2 would be teams 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 are all competing for playoff spots, more than likely not wanting to be in the play-in situation. Correct. So those games count too. Another reason why these games count, like we saw this year, and I think it's an anomaly, and I'll get to that in just a moment why, you'll have teams jockeying for position, not wanting to play other teams in matchups and trying to find a favorable matchup when they get into the playoffs. There may be a little tanking in there, like the Denver Nuggets, who attempted to do so and still ended up getting a situation that they're probably not going to want later on in the playoffs if things pan out the way people expect. But I digress. So that's another attack on the whole tanking thing. So I don't understand why they say, well, not tanking, but on the whole, this regular season doesn't matter. Right. And then games mattered all the way up until the final day of the regular season. At what point didn't the regular season didn't matter? Right. It mattered up until the end of the year, dude.
Yeah.
Because we had teams like the Charlotte Hornets, who we just talked about, who about 2 weeks ago was the 6th seed, ended up being the 10th seed at the end of the year. When doesn't the regular... I still don't understand the whole point about the regular season not mattering in that situation. And I don't know if that's necessarily going to be the case in the future if they can continue to do this. Now, this is the anomaly, right? The LA Lakers, in the regular situation, in the regular year, not COVID involved, not condensed seasons, even though I still say that's an excuse, as close together as those seasons were, and I'm doing that in air quotes because I'm still one that's like, dude, you still didn't play for months on end in between those, but I digress. But they still had a lot of injuries that they needed to deal with. And it put a team that won the title last year and the number 1 overall seed into the 7th spot this year in a playoffs, in a play-in situation. Which, if they're healthy all tonight and continue to be so throughout the entire playoffs, could live up to the assumption that they're the favorite team coming out of the West, which is weird for the number 7 seed to be favored. But once again, this is the team that won the NBA title last year. And if you can get at least an 85, 90% LeBron James and Anthony Davis, and Andre Drummond and Schroeder, Kuzma, if you can get that squad back to playing together as a cohesive unit and just about healthy, there are going to be problems for a lot of these teams, especially in teams 1 through 4 that don't have any experience whatsoever, longevity-wise in the playoffs. Now, they've played in rounds 1 and 2 before, but facing that type of organization built like that in pressure situations, and this time on the road in LA, is going to be a problem, which is why Vegas is leaning on them to potentially come out of which is why Vegas is leaning on them coming out of the West. So with all of this drama, the only way it could be more drama filled is if it was Golden State and the Lakers in the 9-10 spot, where it's a one and done situation, where one moves on and the other one goes fishing tomorrow. But this is as close as we're going to get. And it's still fun nonetheless. And it's oddly sad that Memphis and San Antonio, it's the appetizer to the main course meal, and probably the least talked about matchup of the 4. But that's just going to be the situation when you have 2 markets that aren't that popular, even though those that watch the NBA love Ja Morant.
And San Antonio is one of the more well-run teams in the league.
Exactly. I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
So, you know, for those that watch, no, that's cool. That's cool. Because I know people want to break from my voice too. I get it. So, for those that watch and understand that, yes, they're watching this game. But for those, but in terms of market value and marketing, that is, this game, it's going to be a tough sell, especially with LA Golden State coming right after it. So yeah, I get it, but there's no way in the world, dude. You can convince me otherwise. This play-in situation isn't a great situation for the league and viable for the league in the future, because of course that's more revenue generated for the league too.
And you know, it's some good and bad and everything, right?
Of course.
like basically this prevents tanking because you got teams 9 and 10 involved.
Yes.
With this. So with
and 11 in most cases.
11, because 11 is fighting.
Yeah.
Usually the fighting to get, because I think not looking at the standings in the East nor the West, I think both Toronto and in the East and New Orleans in the West were a few games out in the 11th seed.
Yeah, Toronto effectively dropped down to 12 behind Chicago.
Okay.
But they were still fighting for that.
Right, okay, Chicago. Okay, right.
Yeah, they were battling the Toronto Raptors in the game in which they were playing Washington. They were battling for that 10th seed spot.
Right.
So, yeah. Yeah, and that was just last week. So, yeah, this is a situation, like I said before, where tanking and fighting goes on as far as the season lasts. Yeah.
So, there you go. So, I would say this. Aside from watching, what's his name? Coach Greg Popovich got his long hair. He has long hair now. So that's another.
I'm still trying to get used to that.
Yeah. He's funny. He has no chill. Still one of the greatest coaches of all time in the NBA, hands down. But nevertheless, I think this is fun. And when COVID gets subsidized to reduce the point of it being the season of flu, I think with the fans being the readers being damn near packed again next season, it's gonna be cool. It's gonna be awesome atmosphere, the play-ins in those home cities. So since the urgencies will be up, I think it's a good thing. And again, it was wildly successful in the bubble last year. And remember, for those who believe in trends, like we're both stats guys, there's a team that went undefeated in the bubble last year. And guess where they are right now? The Phoenix Suns, the number 2 seed in the freaking Western Conference. Yes, Chris Paul has a lot to do with it. I get it. Yes, Monty Williams could coach his ass off. Congratulations to him for Coach of the Year. Well deserved. There's something still to be said about Phoenix being on a roll the way they were at the end of last season. And so that's carried over. So don't think that shit won't have the ability to carry over for these playing teams. Would it be the Lakers at full strength? Would it be Golden State at full strength next year? Speaking of which, the West is going to be fucking bananas next year with those
Yeah.
teams being fully healthy.
Yeah.
Also, with Toronto being back, hopefully being back home in Canada in that full strength, they're going to be a problem. And also, like I said, Indiana, your beloved Bullets, I think when another year with Beal and Westbrook together and the improvement of that Rui kid, I can't pronounce that.
Rui Hachimura.
Yeah, the
And,
black Japanese kid. Yeah.
The cat that they drafted this year, the Israeli cat, the Davi that they drafted actually played well in spurts this year as well.
Yeah.
So it's going to be very interesting to see how the Bullets Wizards develop come next year. And oddly enough, who the head coach is going to be. Because I'll tell you this, if they lose tomorrow, it's most definitely going to be a new head coach here in DC. Sure. There's already talk of potentially replacing them anyway, even though they had a great run toward the end of the regular season. And everyone's hoping that next year is a carryover from the end of this season. And we saw, like, you know, with the likes of the Phoenix Suns, that it could happen that if you end the year well, that it could potentially carry over to being a thing the following season. But yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how next year pans out for a lot of these organizations.
Well, speaking of playoffs and carrying to the playoffs, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
The way the seed, I know that, again, the 7th seed tonight has to be decided for the 7th seed in the West. And you still have the 8th seed being up for grabs in the East with Washington and hosting Indiana. But just look at how the matchups set up right now. You got Brooklyn go up against Boston. Can you imagine how it'd be like if the fans were able to come back fully? I know they've been allowing some fans to come back, but Kyrie going back to Boston in games 3 and 4. How sick would that be with a fuller arena?
A full Boston arena?
Yeah.
My God. Because I mean, it wasn't bad yesterday, but it was bad enough.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, coming from a situation where there were no fans whatsoever to having some fans. The fans were very vocal, even though they were still up big against the Washington Wizards last night. And I know you probably remember, there's still some animosity here in DC because of what happened between Washington and Boston a couple of seasons ago. I think it was 2017, 2018, when Washington was in the Eastern Conference Finals and were looking to potentially make that jump, even though Boston had a injured Isaiah Thomas, but Isaiah Thomas came back in game 7 and put a hurt in the boys. Yeah, that's right, in the semis. Yeah, because everyone thought that, hey, if they should be able to get by Boston in game 7, even though it's on the road, because they seem to be more talented and more healthy. But yeah, inexperience set in. So there's still a little animosity here in DC, even though Bradley Beal is the only person from the organization that's still left on the team here. But yeah, their inability to rise to the situation and play well against that Celtics defense showed. And it's going to be very interesting to see how a team in Brooklyn that's pretty deep is going to look playing against a team like Boston, if Boston can be the Boston that appeared last night rather than the Boston that we saw for the end of the year, which is being a defensive headache.
Well, here's the thing about Boston, and being a Knicks fan, I'll talk about them in a moment. I never thought I'd hear myself say that during this time of the year, but I said it. I was raised to hate the Celtics and the Lakers. But I'll say this: this Boston team is still young. Yeah, and you know they are well coached. I don't care what anybody says. Brad Stevens is one of the best coaches in the NBA right now. And they're a well-run organization by Danny Ainge. I cringe whoever says his name. Again, I hate the Celtics. But the point is, I'm still scarfing them from the 80s. Is that they've been knocking on the door the past 2 or 3 seasons. Yeah. And they made it to the conference finals like 2 of the last 3 years in the East. And so they're right there. They've been there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I'm afraid that it may be a type of thing where they've peaked. This team has peaked.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And so, I mean, it's a good problem to have.
Mm-hmm.
To peak at the conference finals level, but still, they're very talented. They're too talented to be a 7th seed. I know they've dealt with injuries. I know that Jaylen Brown's lost for the year.
Yeah.
And they're having to scramble, but still, that's too damn talented and well coached to be a 7th seed. But that would make things more exciting because, again, if you're Brooklyn, do you really want to see a team like Boston, a pissed off Boston team in the 7th seed? And especially with the pressure being on Brooklyn, with Kyrie, with Kevin Durant, with James Harden, that big ass 3 that's unstoppable. That pressure's squarely on them. Boston has nothing to lose right now.
Nothing at all. And people would understand if the Celtics lost because they looked complacent throughout the entire year. Mm-hmm. They're now out without their second leading scorer in Jaylen Brown.
Mm-hmm.
Duh. No one expected them to get past Washington at the crib. So now to face this Brooklyn team, no one's expecting them to beat them. So yes, all of the pressure is on the Brooklyn Nets. And the thing is, this is the first year this entire team has played together under a first-year head coach in these situations. It's going to be very interesting to see how Brooklyn and a team in itself that is also unstable because 1, they can't seem to stay healthy. 2, Kyrie, the flat earther, comes and goes whenever he wants. And, whatever type of...
Takes personal days whenever he wants.
Yeah, takes personal days and whatever cause, God bless him, for even believing in a cause.
Yeah.
But whatever cause he wants to go chase and follow at his own whim, maybe he'll be there, maybe he won't. So, yeah, we'll see exactly how the Brooklyn Nets handle this entire situation going through. But all of this, as I'm saying this out loud, all of this sounds like an ESPN 30 for 30. Oh my God, a team that just can't seem to get it together, have been issues with health, have been sparse in playing. Will they be able to, and this is a team that everyone expects greatness out of, will they be able to make it to the NBA Finals? And we normally know how the story ends in most cases, especially in ESPN 30 for 30s. They end out positive for the team that it's about. So I'm anticipating that to be the case in this situation. I didn't want to necessarily show my hand, but I am kind of showing my hand on who I'm picking in the East by saying that out loud. But I still want to go through the rest of the East with you.
Yeah. So there you go. And speaking of the rest of the East, again, I brought up their names. This team, never thought I'd say the name of this team in the same breath during this time of year. But how about my Knicks?
Boy.
How about my New York freaking Knicks going up against another surprise in the Atlanta Hawks?
Yeah.
2 great stories this season. But man, I'm excited about my Knicks. I mean, this reminds me, I heard Colin Cowherd say this like about a week ago. It reminds me of the old Knicks teams in the 70s that won championships. They did it with defense, grit, and little to no like star power. Like just the superstars. They had the Series 7s, those you were too young to remember or just don't know, like or weren't around to see it. They had like we had Walt Frazier. I saw us a Walt Frazier for the 1970, 71s, no, 1969 to 1970 squad, and Willis Reed.
Yeah.
Those are 2 big headline big stars. Dave DeBusschere, I think, was on it.
Dave DeBusschere was on that squad too, yes,
and
sir.
So we fast forward to 1972 to 1973 season, which ended a few months before I was born. So technically I was never alive the last time my Knicks won a title. So basically it was those 3 guys and Earl the Pearl Monroe.
And at this point in time, Earl had dealt with a lot of injuries.
Yes.
So he wasn't that Earl Monroe, but he was still Earl Monroe. So he could still come out there and get you buckets.
Right.
But yeah, he wasn't the Earl Monroe that everyone expected him to be. So still star power.
Yeah, he wasn't the Pearl like he was in Washington. Yeah, at that point.
No, and he wasn't the Pearl that he was when he was at Winston-Salem State.
Oh,
so
God. Yeah.
So
for those who don't know, Google him. Google that and YouTube him at Winston State and in Baltimore.
And hey, there's one thing you don't have to Google, because my guess is that you guys have watched this movie. In the movie He Got Game, of course, the character Jesus Shuttlesworth is named after Black Jesus,
yes.
aka Earl Monroe, which is one of his many nicknames. But yes, that Knicks squad, as good as they were, and matter of fact, Phil Jackson was on that team too.
That's right. That's correct.
So yeah, as even though they were a championship team and they had stars on that team, they weren't the flashiest organization in the NBA during that time frame. And that's exactly what we got going on here, and which is one of the reasons why this Knicks team can be scary. One of the things I didn't realize until last night when we did our preview for the playoffs ourselves on Sleazy, which as well as Julius Randle played, he shot 41% from the three.
That's right.
This year.
Most improved player of the year candidate.
Yes. One of several Knicks players, that shot over 40% from the three this year.
Right.
So as much as everyone likes to talk about, that's what they call him, Trey Lance. Trey Young from Atlanta, and his shooting ability and how young and talented that organization is. They got some shooters in New York too. And the fact that they play defense makes them even more difficult to deal with, which is why I have them beating Atlanta. And they also swept Atlanta I think they beat them 2-1 during the regular season. I had them advancing over Atlanta.
Yeah.
And facing facing the winner of the Philly and whoever's going to win tomorrow night between Washington and Indiana. Right. I'm still not necessarily told it's going to be Washington yet, but the winner of that series, and I believe that they can give the Philadelphia 76ers some fits. Yeah. The thing is, though, of course, is how are they going to stop Joel Embiid? And we've seen in the past that sometimes Joel Embiid can be his own best defender.
Yes.
And limiting himself, even though he's shown this season during the regular season that he has blossomed. The question is...
That's Doc Rivers. That's all Doc Rivers, by the way.
Exactly. But the question is, will it carry over into the playoffs? Because we've seen Joel Embiid come up short in the playoffs. We've seen Doc Rivers come up short in the playoffs.
We have.
So, and under, once again, a pressure situation like the Knicks and the way that they play defense, will they be able to last against this Knickerbocker organization and keep them from advancing to the NBA Eastern Conference Finals? That'll be an interesting matchup.
You know, there's another matchup in the East that's not being talked about, which is funny because these same two teams faced off in the Eastern Conference playoffs last year. Miami, Milwaukee.
In Milwaukee, yes, sir.
Yes, man. When they faced off in the second round, in the semifinals, the conference semifinals, which Miami just spanked them 4-1. Gentlemen,
bullied them.
4-1. So outside of Victor Oladipo, Miami's relatively healthy. And you're going against a better, and I think this Milwaukee Bucks squad is better than last year's because you have.
They better hope so.
Yeah, they're better, right? Before the sake of their head coach, but still, they have Drew Holiday, who I think was one of the better defenders in the NBA that doesn't get talked about. You have, of course, the Greek Freak. We all know about him. Chris Middleton's balling.
Yeah.
I think having Drew Holiday there will help a whole lot. And the thing is, they're in the situation where they want to be because they're not being talked about. They're the third seed. I say only the third seed, but they're a strong third seed. That's still a damn good squad. That's given this 2 seed Brooklyn Nets fits.
Yes, they have.
And they have
swept them if memory serves me.
Yes, they have if they tied, they would have had home court over the Nets. So they're not afraid of Brooklyn. So I think two teams, one that's tough in Miami and well coached in Miami, and another that has something to prove and pissed off in Milwaukee, who's actually better this year. That's going to be a very interesting series. I hope. I'm wondering it's going to be if it's a little physical because of what happened between the two teams last year.
Oh, it's going to most definitely be physical. Yeah.
So, and that would be interesting for if once Brooklyn makes it past Boston the second round. You know what I'm saying? So that's good. The Eastern Conference is wide open.
Yeah.
It is so wide open. Sure, Brooklyn and Philly are the favorites, but it's wide open.
Mm-hmm.
For me, for the reasons I said earlier, we're talking about the other teams participating in the playoffs right now in the East. So that's gonna be fun as hell. And of course, we hadn't started. We hadn't talked about the West.
No, we haven't. But before we get to the West, real quick, that Milwaukee Miami situation vividly reminds me of what's going on or what is about to go on with Brooklyn and Boston. You have a team like the Miami Heat, who was in the NBA Finals last year. Looked like there were times this year where they were disinterested. And then, they come on toward the end of the year. They end up looking extremely gritty in one of the final games of the year against the Philadelphia 76ers, holding Joel Embiid. Yes. And then, of course, your boy, Udonis Haslem, who played for 3 minutes for the very first time this year. They kicked out of the game. Yeah. I mean, this is hilarious, dude. But once again, this is that gritty, physical Miami Heat team playing under Eric Spoelstra, one of the other most underrated coaches in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
That is a defensive schemer and that understands that in a 7-game series, I can figure out ways to attempt to beat you defensively. And you had that situation with a team that they bullied last year and that they beat last year all over again. Dude, once again, it's so difficult, and we're going to talk a lot about the Western Conference. It's so difficult to rely on the top 4 seeds in either conference because of their inexperience. They're supposed to be better. They can be better. The thing is, will they prove it, especially against a lot of experienced organizations, with the exception of whoever ends up facing Philly in the first round and the Atlanta Hawks?
Yeah. And I love the NBA playoffs, especially this year. It's going to be bananas. So let's talk about the West right quick. Utah, top seed.
Yeah.
Phoenix, 2 seed.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Lakers, as the 7th seed, are scared of either of those 2 teams? I say no.
To quote my man, DeJuan Hunter, is a fellow alum of North Carolina A&T like us. He was an undergrad with me there. Oh, hell's no. Hell's no. There's, you know what? The only way that they would be afraid is if they weren't healthy.
Right.
Yes, both teams have beaten the LA Lakers, if my math is correct, a combined 4-2 this season. But of course, somebody was hurt in LA during at least one of those games, if not 2, in both of those matchups. The thing is, if they're healthy, and on paper they said that they are, but if they show that they're healthy tonight and they can play well against the Golden State Warriors, and that's another reason why America is so hyped to watch this game, because they want, not only is it a matchup of 2 Titans from just a couple of seasons ago,
right,
are the Lakers who we think they are,
right,
and if they are, it's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, and that's why. Oh hell, even Golden State being the 8th seed, worst case scenario. You think they're scared? You think you're scared of Utah?
Again, if memory serves me correctly, I think it's either Phoenix or Utah. I can't remember who it is, but I think Golden State owns a series against one of them too. I could be wrong. That's without looking, but they've given somebody some fits this regular season, and I don't think they're afraid either. Especially once again the way that Steph Curry has looked towards the last 2 months. No, I don't think anyone wants to see them right now.
And wouldn't it be fun to see the Lakers and the Warriors? We're just writing off Memphis, right?
Yeah, we are. It's shameful. Memphis and San Antonio at this moment.
And Memphis is a damn good team. They're a good young team, Memphis is. But anyway, we're writing them off right now. But just think, this West Conference playoffs will have most likely the Lakers and the 7th seed, the defending champion.
Yeah.
Lakers in the 7th seed, and the season 3-time champion Golden State Warriors in the 8th seed.
Mm-hmm.
That's crazy. crazy.
Exactly. And see, to your point, and yeah, I just saw it. Golden State owns the regular season against the Utah Jazz 2-1. So no, they're not afraid of Utah. They might be a little afraid of, well, I shouldn't say afraid. Phoenix might be an interesting matchup for them because they got a lot of youth and a lot of speed with them. But of course, Steph is Steph. So it'll be intriguing to see if that situation pans out too. But yeah, I don't think either one of those teams are afraid of the top 2 seeds, or hell, the top 4 seeds in the West right now.
Yeah. Yeah. And nor should they.
No.
They've been there, done that, both of them.
Yeah.
And yeah, so there will be, I mean, Phoenix and LA will be an entertaining matchup, right? Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton go up against LeBron and Anthony Davis.
Yeah. But see, this is a way for LeBron to get what he has been complaining about since the beginning of the season, or actually since before the season started, when they announced when the season was going to start, which was pushing back the date for when they play. Because, of course, the regular season ended in October. Well, last year's regular season ended in October. And, well, the finals ended in October, I'm sorry. And then this year's regular season started in late December, 2 months later. So, yeah, he wanted a little bit more time off, and he got it. Unfortunately, it was due to injury, though. But, you know, if he used that time to rehab and rest the way that he needed to, then they're going to be a situation come first round, regardless of who they play, if they can advance past the play-in situation.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. And we haven't talked about the Clippers last year's.
We hadn't even talked about the Clippers in Dallas or Portland and Denver. Yeah.
I think that Portland-Denver series is going to be one side. I think not Portland. I think even though Denver doesn't have, obviously, Jamal Murray, they still have Jokic, the Joker.
Yeah.
Who's balling like crazy. I think this has gentleman's sweep written all over it.
Really?
I think it does.
I think this is going to be a very interesting series, even though Denver does own the matchup. Statistically, if you look at the numbers in their 3 matchups in the regular season, the Portland Trailblazers outscored them per game.
Right.
They outshot them per game, and they out-rebounded them per game. So they statistically they did better. They just, of course, came up short in one of the matchups. But I don't know, man. I think that series goes 6, if not 7.
Interesting. Yeah, I can see that. I think Denver is just playing like they're on a mission.
They should.
They're playing like they're on a mission. And yeah, I mean, I love Dame Dollar. I love as far as Portland goes, I love CJ McCollum a lot. I just think Denver's that squad. I just think Denver is one of the favorites out west, man. Who's really not afraid of either LA team.
No, they're not. And they showed it last year. The thing is, the difference is they don't have Jamal Murray.
Right.
But here's a secret. No one expected much out of Jamal Murray from the playoffs last year. Right. Remember, the talk was about Michael Porter.
Yes.
And the Joker. Right. Very little did you hear about Jamal Murray. And of course, the playoffs was his coming out party. No homo. But it just happened to be, sorry, it was there. That was poor taste. But
God is working on you.
Yes, he is. God know my heart. God know my heart. He know I'm foolish. Right. But Jamal Murray, last year was his coming out party, and he played extremely well. And unfortunately, he won't be there. The thing is, this is their opportunity to show what a lot of people expected from them last year, was that they can succeed. I'm not going to say without Jamal Murray, but with a different piece. Aaron Gordon is there, and then they also got a couple of other players in that squad whose names currently escape me. But they should be able to compete with this very deep Portland Trailblazers squad as well.
Yeah.
They're both deep organizations, yeah.
Well, I think the Clippers, this version of the Clippers, moving on to the next series, shouldn't have as much trouble with Dallas as it did last year.
It shouldn't, but Luka Doncic is Luka Doncic.
Yeah, he's a problem. He's a problem.
Yeah, you talk about Russell Westbrook being a walking triple-double.
Mm-hmm.
This dude is pretty close to it too.
Yeah.
So he's going to cause fits for the Clippers, and then of course Tim Hardaway Jr. has been balling out.
Porzingis will be playing, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So if they can do what they've done during the regular season, because I think that they own that regular season series as well. Excuse me, and they do own the regular season series over the LA Clippers. Once again, outscoring them, outshooting them, and out rebounding them. The thing is, will it carry over into the playoffs? You would expect for the Clippers to play well because, of course, Kawhi Leonard, NBA champion. Paul George, who I refuse to call playoff George until he shows me.
He's the pandemic P until further notice.
Exactly, right?
Yes.
And they got a lot of other veterans on that squad too that should be able to step up. The question is, will they? So this is an opportunity to do so against a very good Dallas Maverick team.
You know what, man? I said it earlier. You pretty much corroborated it earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Between the playing games we got last night and we're getting tonight, what's at stake with the teams involved, particularly in this game later tonight between the Warriors and the Lakers? The intensity that was there with your beloved Washington team, I'll start calling the Bullets, and the Celtics, maybe. And as well as the matchups that we're seeing, the rest of the spots of both conferences of playoffs, this NBA playoffs is going to be bananas.
Yeah.
Straight, unadulterated bananas.
Because we don't know what to expect.
Yeah.
We don't, right? And yes, you can call me lazy. My pick is basically what everyone thought it was going to be in the beginning of the season. And it can build itself up to be just that, because we really don't know what to expect, like I said before, with the top 4 seeds in both conferences.
Right.
So until they show me otherwise, then I'm not going to be surprised by, if my pick comes to fruition. If it doesn't, hooray for basketball. And then that means that those top 4 teams are who they showed us they were in the regular season.
Yeah. And so that again, the Knicks are the 4th seed in the East.
Yeah.
Phoenix is the 2 seed out West. Utah's the top seed.
Yeah.
Milwaukee's only the 3 seed.
Only the 3rd seed, and no one's talking about them. Yeah.
No one's talking about them. Miami's playing well. They're the defending East Conference champs. They're the 6th seed. And last but not least, the defending champion Los Angeles Lakers, if things play out the way they should, are going to be the 7th seed.
Potentially. It could be the 8th.
It could be the 8th. But I'm saying, if it plays on, that's why I said if it plays the West, we think it's supposed to.
Yeah.
They'll be the 7th seed. So that's NBA playoffs. It's fan-fucking-tastic.
Yeah, this is the most unpredictable year that I can think of in recent history. I mean, I understand that's hyperbole. Yeah, I get it. But I'm going to go ahead and say probably that first Golden State year is probably as unexpected a year that I can think of off the top of my head. But I know I'm wrong. But what I'm not wrong about is how unexpected this season is.
And speaking of unexpected and crazy and bananas, let's talk. Stay in the NBA for a minute. Now, imagine if you're a player, if you're a guy who's been shitted on by people the last 20 years of your life.
Oh my
you get
God.
to a point where people is talking about you and your mama on podcasts, on TV, just out of the blue again.
They was talking about his mama too.
I'm just saying that like when people talk about you, I say you and your mama. But that'd be hella bad. That'd be like a death watch there. But anyway, then you imagine after 20 years and the recent talk again takes you to a breaking point. A breaking point you probably didn't know you had. And you're like, enough is fucking enough, and just go off. It's kind of like the snowball effect. You let it build up. You don't say anything. You build up and build up. And I'm guilty of this. You let it build up and build up. All of a sudden, when it erupts, it just goes.
Yeah.
Collateral damage everywhere. Everybody's on death watch. This is Kwame Brown in a nutshell.
Yeah.
He has fucking enough and has time to tell you that he has enough, and still has time to tell you that he has enough.
He's probably dropped another video while
I'm sure he has. Now. I'm sure. And by the way, I'm not ashamed to admit that I have subscribed to his channel because I love train wrecks, and I've been and while I'm working, I had it on in the background, just laughing my ass off, especially when he goes in on Stephen A. Smith, and he really goes. He's still going in on Stephen A. Smith versus Stevie. And, you know, the other part of it was Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson stems from all the Smoke podcasts, not just the Gilbert Arenas one where Gilbert talked about him, but back when they had Jeannie Buss on, when Jeannie Buss talked about the trade that brought Pau Gasol to LA. Many people don't remember they traded the draft rights to his brother Mark. And also in that trade was Kwame Brown.
Brown, yes, sir.
And then Steven Jackson, I call him Stacks. Stacks said, "You mean one player?" Meaning Mark Gasol, totally disrespecting Kwame Brown. And I didn't.
Who was it that said, "Give me half a player" because Kwame was involved, something like that?
Yeah, 1.5. Yeah, 1.5, something like that. Just totally disrespected the man. Totally disrespected him. And so, which was interesting because I didn't know. And I forgot rather that they played together in Charlotte. He and Stacks played together in Charlotte, which is a big reason why Kwame was upset. But the way he went on Mark and Matt Barnes, man, calling him, get this, man, dude went from calling him Becky with the good hair because he's biracial to a pretty ass light skinned. I'm just a quote, pretty ass light skinned nigga. I don't like saying the N-word, but that's what he said.
That's what he called him.
To get this, hold on to your hat, call him the tough version of Bruno Mars.
Oh, my God, dude.
Man, he also called him emotional because he didn't have a daddy to show him the ropes. That's when he went personal. So he went, when I say erupts and collateral damage, he started taking personal shots at these cats.
Yeah.
Talked about Mark Barnes and how he was too emotional. He was so emotional that he almost got his ass kicked at his own house by because Derek Fisher was messing with his old lady, even though they were already divorced. He brought that up. Again, they called him a soft ass light skin bleep N-word. Called Steven Jackson like weak and effeminate. Because they had to buy, quote, this is quote, buy his hoes.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Which he admitted to, Steve Sachs admitted to in the response video on IG.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, and so, but to their credit.
Well, he said he didn't buy sex.
We didn't buy sex.
He paid for strippers.
Strippers, yeah, he said strippers. Yeah, he didn't buy sex, but he paid for strippers. But the point is that those two guys, Matt Barnes and Stacks, they've taken this, I don't want to say taken it well, but better than I expected. They're not trying to get him in the sauce. They're like, look, man, just play better. We just have a better career. Don't be mad at us. Be mad at yourself. That's what they're saying.
Yeah.
But Stephen A. Smith, he was defending himself on, I didn't get to hear the full video, on Keyshawn's and what's his name, Jay Williams show. I don't think was it this morning? I think it was this morning.
Okay.
Was trying to defend himself, and Jay Will essentially was defending Kwame Brown. Because remember, for people who don't remember, Stephen A. Smith, on the eve that this kid, a then 18-year-old, was a 17-year-old at the time.
Yeah.
Kwame Brown was drafted, #1 overall. He slammed him. Totally slammed him. And that was one of his first few years at first year or two on ESPN. That was our introduction to Stephen A. Smith for ESPN, essentially. So, needless to say, Kwame has never forgotten about that. And that also came out, even though Stephen A has not said anything about Kwame in years before Kwame just erupted. Mount Kwame erupted. I mean, just still going on Stephen A as we speak, probably. I got to check the YouTube channel again. But also, he went after Jamel Hill a bit today because she had her thoughts on it. And while he was trying to be respectful, he called her ma'am and Miss Hill. He still was pretty upset with her. He was upset with, as you can imagine, Gilbert Arenas, no chill Gil himself, even though he didn't go in nearly as hard as he did on the three principals, being Stephen A, Stacks, and Matt Barnes. Not near as bad as he went on those three. Because he and Gilbert still talk, apparently.
Apparently, yeah.
So they have a relationship at least. But also, this came out later today, literally an hour or two before this podcast. He had a response to none other than the Breakfast Club.
The Breakfast Club too?
He went after the Breakfast Club. Apparently, I don't know. I don't listen to the Breakfast Club as much as I used to, but I'm guessing that Charlemagne the God named him the donkey of the day.
Probably.
Yeah. I'm guessing that's what happened. Again, I don't know, but knowing how the show goes and the formats, how Charlemagne is, I'm guessing that's what happened. And I don't think that Charlemagne was the only cat who had anything, who was the only guy who had opinions on Kwame Brown. I'm sure it was a big topic of discussion on the show this morning because the video, his main response video came out yesterday afternoon. So with that being said, and you got to listen to what he said about Charlemagne the God in particular. He went in on him. With his personal, he went personal. When I say personal, I mean personal.
Yeah, because they're both from the Charleston area.
That's right.
The city where Charlemagne the God is from, Mount Pleasant, South Carolina, is right outside. It's just north of Charleston. And I used to live in Somerville, and of course it's like southeast of Somerville, in between Somerville and Charleston. So yeah, they're right there. So they probably ran in the same circles. They're probably about the same age. As a matter of fact, well, no,
Charlemagne's a little bit Charlemagne's a few years
Charlemagne's a little bit older because Kwame got drafted the year that I moved down to Charleston, which was 2001. So that summer when he got drafted, I would end up moving to Charleston in September of that year. And Charlemagne was pretty big on the radio down in that area at that time. So yeah, he's slightly older, so they probably ran in similar circles or know some of the same people.
Kwame Brown's 39. Kwame Brown's 39. So I know Charlemagne's in his 40s. So yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, they most definitely know the same people. Charleston's not that big, too.
Right. It's not. It really isn't. But it's I just find it. Look, I should say the 47-year-old in me says that I should behave like a grown-up and say, you know what, Kwame Brown, it's been 20 years. You haven't played in the NBA since 2013. Move on. Move on with your life, right? Apparently he's living his best life. He hasn't, I mean, he's run afoul of the law a couple of times, but he's appeared to have gotten things together and everything else. Very well-spoken brother. I didn't know he was that funny. But I don't know if he means to be that funny or not, but I mean, he's got it together. And apparently the dude not only likes the fight guy from Gilbert Arenas stories, he's apparently real good at it too. One of those country strong brothers. But anyway, the mature version of me should say, Kwame, you're above this. You don't have to be personal. You don't have to take pot shots, move on. But I'm not mature. I'm petty. And the petty side of me is loving this shit. I mean, he has no chill. He doesn't give a fuck. He's like, none. He's like, look, I've had enough. And I'm calling out you guys. I'm talking about you, Stephen Smith, even though you hadn't said shit about me in years. I'm still going to talk about you because I remember what you said about me. Yeah. And kept saying about me while doing my playing career. So fuck you too. And he just really went in on him. Really went on him. Now he's talking about Jamel Hill and got in person with Charlemagne the God. I'm interested to see how he responds tomorrow. He being Charlemagne. I'm interested to see how he respond tomorrow. Knowing him, he's just as petty as he is.
Oh yeah,
Everybody
he's
has a
super
lot to
petty.
say.
Yeah.
He
Oh
probably has
yeah.
a lot to say too. So it's going to be very, very interesting. But look, I'm like Stephen A. though. Stephen A. has no part of it.
You know why? Because Stephen A's above it.
Yeah.
And right now his brand is at a place where getting involved in something as petty as this doesn't benefit him any. So I understand why he's not involved.
Yeah. Stacks is not really trying to get involved because he's like, look, man, blame yourself for your career. I've talked about your career on the court, not off the court. So if you want to do that, fine. Yeah, I pay for strippers. Yeah, I know. Everyone knows my track record. But hey, blame yourself. Matt Barnes pretty much the same way. Blame yourself. I ain't got nothing to do with it. It ain't got nothing to do with me. I'm just telling you what I see, wherever I see. But again, the petty side of me, I'm here for it. I'm all for it. And something tells me this is going to turn into a podcast. You know what it is? Because people want to know what Kwame has to say, even though him taking pot shots at these guys will, I guess, eventually get old. Yes, find something else to talk about.
Yeah.
But damn it, that dude is funny. I didn't know that he was that funny too.
Neither did I, right? Yeah. And like you said, we've rarely heard Kwame talk about anything. And I think he's always had this YouTube channel. I don't know how much content he's already had on there before this, but like you said, there are a lot of people who are now out here watching his account to see what he puts out. I mean, yes, it's still this, but like you said, also at some point it's going to get old. But he is pretty funny. Yeah. The thing is, if he could somehow parlay this into an opportunity, that would be wonderful for him. Yeah. My question is whether or not he is smart enough to do so. Right. I'm not calling him a dummy. All I know is, based upon what I've seen of him as an athlete, he has very rarely taken advantage of situations to prove otherwise of how people will critique him, right? Right. And that's like fair. You said, right, about with Gil and Steven Jackson and Matt Barnes have all said about him on the floor. Of course, it's valid. It's very valid because we saw it personally, right?
Everyone knows that, yeah.
You know, regardless of even the embellishments he did, even with that, right? Because a lot of the stuff that he accused them of doing, accused Michael Jordan of doing, and my favorite of that was even still, you know, I didn't want to say anything negative about Michael Jordan because no one would have wanted to believe me. Dude, you know who would have been there for you to believe you? This guy. Yeah. This guy. Yeah. Because as a Washington Wizards fan, I was rooting for you to do good, dude. Yeah. Now, had they traded you for Elton Brand, yay, I would have cheered for that too. Of course. Because I thought that would have been a benefit by bringing in this all-star in here. But I've also saw how that didn't work in this organization too. Right. So for you to say that you were drafted only to get traded, I can see that being the case. Just like we saw that Abe Pollin, when he fired Mike, one of the reasons was because, you know, he went ahead and told Mike that he didn't like the way he dealt with young players. But oddly enough, they allowed youth to be traded out of that organization. Some turned out to be extremely talented, and I'll get to that in a little bit as well. But yeah, they bring you in, and you do that. But we all know that Abe Pollin used Mike like he uses other carnival attractions to go ahead, get that gate money. And it worked for 2 seasons until it got old, and then he went ahead and shipped Mike on his way. And I still remember Mike driving up through Chinatown with his convertible top down after he got fired. I still remember that visual. And that was, for me, kind of like good riddance, because as great as Mike is considered to be, as much as he was a pariah here in D.C. Yeah. And as you can see from Kwame Brown and his time here, it didn't help. But you know what? Mike wasn't here long. You were still here. Yeah. And you like to blame Gilbert Arenas for some of your downfalls too, bruh. Gilbert didn't become Gilbert until Gilbert got here, and that still took a year or two while you were still on the roster. Yeah. You could have been the mainstay, but no, you didn't prove yourself to be so. So you got traded to LA, right? And I understand you're not going to outshine Kobe. So yes, while you're in LA,
that's a difficult guy to play with.
Another difficult guy to play with, right?
Yeah.
So I know you weren't going to outshine Kobe, and I get that too. But you still went to Detroit. You still went to Memphis.
Went to Charlotte.
You went to Charlotte, and I think you went to Chicago too. Dude, you did nothing there either.
Right.
Hello.
Yeah. And he went to Philly. He went to Golden State. He went to Philly.
And Golden State.
Yeah.
You did nothing there either. So you had opportunities to do stuff once you were out of their spotlight, and you didn't. Who's to blame there then, dude?
Yeah. Exactly.
You can't blame Mike for what you did in Memphis.
That was Stax's point.
Yes.
That was Matt Barnes' point.
Exactly.
Don't get mad at us.
Dude.
Don't get mad at us.
Who's holding?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, don't get mad at us.
Who's holding you down in Memphis? Who? Who is the superstar in the Memphis Grizzlies that's holding you down? No one. And then you talk about how you had the highest, man, you was throwing stats out there. I'm like, how? I swear you lying. You talk about your 30-point games. Dude, you had one in your entire career. One. Where is these multiple 30-point games you talking about? When you combine your points with Gilbert Arenas or Kobe Bryant's? Mm-hmm. Maybe, yeah. But not by yourself, dog. You had an opportunity to do it and didn't. All the other stuff is hilarious, yes. Yeah. Talking about how Gilbert Arenas almost got beat down in the club in D.C. I can see that happening. Because like you said, a lot of these thugs here in D.C., they don't care about what your status is. They check them pockets if they deem it's a chance to do so. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, yes, I can see that being the case. They did a lot of the other stuff that you said about these cats too, man. I get it too. But Steven Jackson said the funniest thing ever. He's like, dude, I ain't got to dig dirt up to throw on you because you already dirt. Your career is dirt. When he said that, dude, I was dying. Oh, man. Then he would subsequently follow that up with, everything else could be a lie, but the one thing that ain't a lie is that I'm great at basketball and you're not.
Wow.
Yes. So, all the personal jabs, I understand why we find it entertaining. Dude, our president is boring. Thank God our president is boring.
Thank God we got a grown-up president.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Thank God.
We don't have a toddler anymore in the White House, but that's not
No, we don't. Thank God. The biggest thing, I guess, that's going on in terms of scuttlebutt in pop culture right now is Portia Williams from Real Housewives of Atlanta and former wife to Cordell Stewart is now dealing with a dude who was once married to her best friend. I guess that might be the biggest thing going right now. Yeah. Okay. Who cares about that? And then there's really nothing outside of the pandemic that we're tired of to talk about nationally. Here, regionally, it's cicadas, but nationally, that's not affecting nobody. So what else is out there? Kwame Brown. So yes, and the fact that he's on this Tupac tirade right now.
Yes, he is
what's making it so interesting because this dude is dropping mixtapes night in and night out. Yeah. I see people who don't even watch basketball talking about Kwame Brown right now. It's entertaining, but when you start talking about what facts is facts. Mm-hmm. The basketball stuff is what's facts.
Ball don't lie. Ball
don't lie. You can't deny that, dude. And yes, I can understand how Jordan could be discouraging to you and hold you down. I can see how, Kobe. I can even see Gilbert if you think that's true. Mm-hmm. But there were years you didn't play with them and you were still trash. Now what?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? I'll say this, right? He stayed in the league for 12 years, which is fantastic, right? You can't beat that. Being in the league for 10 plus years. But I will say this: you look up his stats, look up statistically. I see why people would consider him a bust because if you look at his win shares based upon everyone he was drafted with, now that draft class wasn't a great one, right? But there were some good players there. Mm-hmm. Paul Gasol, Tony Parker, Richard Jefferson, Joe Johnson, Zach Randolph, Shea Battier was okay, Gerald Wallace was okay, Jason Richardson was decent. But you let Mehmet Okur outplayed you? Samuel Dallenberg. Matter of fact, Gilbert Arenas was one of your draft class, dude.
That's
Who
right.
else?
Yeah.
Troy Murphy, Brendan Haywood, Vladimir Radmanovich. You even let Eddie Curry have a better win share percentage than you did in the NBA, dude. But 12 years, I'm not going to necessarily call you a bust, but you were bad.
Yeah.
But the one thing that you
years. Yeah. He played 12 years.
But the one thing you're not bad at is comedy. Yeah. So I thank you for that. I just wish we would have got those gems years ago. Mm-hmm. We missing out.
He never said anything. He never said anything.
Never said a word. But you know what? He was young in the NBA. And if you listen to him talk about how the NBA treated him, I can see why he was probably quiet for those years. He's 17, 18, 19, formative years, probably no one there to support him in that situation. Mm-hmm. And yeah, he's a kid, man. He's a big kid, but he's still a kid. So I can see why not then. And then you get with Kobe, and Kobe's going to outshine you. But at some point, dog, say something. You didn't say nothing, but you did now, and we thank you.
Going from crazy to positive, HBCU sports. We're going to that's a hell of a transition, right? From that to the HBCU sports segment. So we do this every week, and we love it. So Dwayne, we all know you cover this. This is your baby. So bless us with some HBCU sports knowledge and take us home.
Okay, so I'm gonna do a build up, right?
Okay.
First and foremost, shout out to the participants in this. I think it's going to be this weekend. The Division II Outdoor Track and Field Championships, where they're going to be representatives from Alabama, Albany State, Benedict, and who was the third school? Lincoln out of Missouri. Mm-hmm. So they're going to be representatives from both the men and the women. From Lincoln and Benedict, most sure from the men. But from the women's side, it's going to be Albany State, Benedict, and Lincoln as well. So congratulations to those.
Cool.
Good luck to you guys competing for national championships there. Second up on the docket would be congratulations to Jaquez Ezzard. For those who aren't familiar and didn't get an opportunity to watch this past weekend's FCS championship game, a doozy between Sam Houston State and South Dakota State, where the Bearcats of Sam Houston State won 23-21, literally at the horn with a late touchdown to go ahead. Jaquez plays for Sam Houston State, wide receiver there, had a fantastic day, 10 receptions, led all teams with 10 receptions, 108 yards, 2 touchdowns. The reason why I bring up Jaquez in the HBCU aspect of this, because he used to play at Howard. He's a Howard alum. So he graduated early from Howard, had some eligibility left, and went on to play his final year at Sam Houston State. My thing is, though, which is a disappointment to me, is what he and Kaylin Newton could have been at Howard, especially in 2019, which would have been their third year together. I was looking for that team to be a threat within the conference, potentially even be a Celebration Bowl dark horse that year, because that offense was very talented. Even though they did lose former head coach Mike London to William and Mary, the hiring of Ron Prince is what derailed that team mightily. So much so that Jaquez didn't play that 2019 season due to injury. And I'm doing that with air quotes. Yes, because and I might as well go ahead and get into it now. We're 2 years removed. I asked the sports information director about the injury, and I never got any news. He didn't say anything. And I'm not saying that I emailed him and he didn't respond. No, I talked to him and he didn't give me a response about this injury. So I don't even know if this injury really existed, but I do know there were a lot of players that left that team because they didn't like Ron. And Jaquez probably used that injury to sit out last year and finish up his degree alongside with Kaylin Newton there at Howard to graduate and then use their eligibility elsewhere. But yeah, I would have loved to have seen what he would have done at Howard. But, thankfully, he got an opportunity to show his ability on the big stage at the FCS championship game and perform well there. Moving on, next thing on the docket, congratulations to the MEAC and SWAC. They just signed an extension to their deal with ESPN events to extend both the MEAC SWAC Challenge and the Celebration Bowl, both sponsored by Cricket. Make sure I get that out there because I know they're going to be upset if I don't put the sponsorship out there too. Even though Cricket ain't sending us no dough, but they need to, right? So congratulations on that. They get the extension, and not only along with the extension with the deal. Actually, I'm sorry, correction. It's not an extension. It's a new deal. But not only with that, First Take is going to appear at this year's MEAC SWAC Challenge, which is going to be technically week 0, which I think is going to be like that last week in August, which is going to be North Carolina Central and Alcorn State facing one another. So yeah, they're going to show up in Atlanta that week, probably that Friday before the game, to help promote the game.
That's great.
And according to ESPN executive John Grant, it appears as though First Take is going to also make an appearance at other HBCU games this fall in 2021. The thing is, it's going to be a secret as of right now. But let's be real. We already know at least one of those places is going to be somewhere.
Jackson State. I'm guessing
it's going to be Jackson State. Yeah.
Yeah, Jackson
It's most
State.
definitely going to be that one. Yeah. So we're not going to sit here and fake the funk on that. We already know that's going to be the case. So, but they said several appearances. So I'm waiting to see how that pans out. So that's wonderful to hear that ESPN is looking to continue their relationship with the MEAC and SWAC. Something that it's not unexpected by me, but I'm just glad that it's still going on. I just wish that somehow, some way, we can get the other combined 150 games on some sort of broadcast through ESPN or some other entity, because I would like to watch as much HBCU football as possible. But that's another story for another time.
Right.
Moving on, the Basketball Hall of Fame just happened this past weekend, and they also named their inductees for 2021. Now, of course, there are a lot of names that we know. Chris Bosh, what's your boy's name? Jay Wright, the head coach over at Villanova, right?
Yep.
Who else that's involved? Tony Kukoc.
Tony Kukoc is named to the Hall of Fame?
Yes, sir.
Wow.
Yes, sir. Chris Webber. So those are greats that are there. But, of course, two greats from HBCUs. My main man, Ben Wallace. Congratulations, Big Ben, who, of course, is an alum of Virginia Union.
Well deserved.
Well deserved. Say that again. I want you to say that again for Coach.
Well fucking deserved, because he's how many times he won the Defensive Player of the Year? 4 times?
4 times.
Four times. Yeah.
4 times. 4 times Defensive Player of the Year. There's only one other NBA player that received that honor 4 times, and that would be the great Hakeem Olajuwon.
Correct.
Coach's beef with Ben Wallace making it into the Basketball Hall of Fame was because of the fact that he wasn't named to any first team All NBA teams. My thing is this, dude, do you remember the centers that they had to face during that time period? One of them being Shaq.
And the finals.
Yes. Did you really think that he was going to give first team All NBA over Shaq? I don't care what Shaq was going to do. Shaq was going to get first all team NBA. And there were other great centers in the league as well, but he was still good enough to get Defensive Player of the league.
And he had to go up against, even though he was a power forward, Tim Duncan.
Tim Duncan.
The following year.
So I'm like, dude, come on. Stop playing. He made second team All NBA. Even though he didn't make first team, he was
an all-star too, wasn't he?
He was a multi-time all-star too. But to my other point, this is the Basketball Hall of Fame, not the NBA Hall of Fame. Even with the NBA Hall of Fame, still 4-time Defensive Player of the Year and NBA champion.
Yeah.
But once again, like I said, this is Basketball Hall of Fame. He is also he was also a national champion in the NCAA on the Division II ranks for Virginia Union. And he's also, of course, Player of the Year in the CIAA. So again, well-deserved. Ben freaking Wallace out of Virginia Union, another player that played a cup of coffee here in DC that was traded away because he wasn't a name, and he was traded away for Ike Austin. Still burns, yes, dude, which is why, God rest his soul, Wes Unseld, I wanted to fight him several times. Now, the first one, of course, he dissed me at 5 years old, but that's another time for another conversation. But the other stuff involved him trading away players that were eventually become Hall of Famers. In this class, actually, two of them, Chris Webber and Ben Wallace, was under your watch, Wes Unseld, and you traded them away. But dude, I don't want to get into that right now because you're no longer with us. And it's all just going to make me mad again. The other inductee into the Basketball Hall of Fame that has HBCU ties, which is from the senior committee, is my man out of Norfolk State, another CIAA alum, Bobby the Greyhound Dandridge. Played with Milwaukee, played with Washington, won titles with both organizations, had his number retired with both organizations, also won a conference title at CIAA. So he was a great on both levels. So congratulations to him for finally making it into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Long overdue for you as well, young man. Congratulations to Mr. Dandridge and to Mr. Wallace. And my last one, which was going to bleed over into the random shit segment, is unfortunately this past weekend, there was a passing in the pro wrestling ranks. Jerome Young, also known to wrestling fans as New Jack, unfortunately died this past weekend at the age of 58. I think I may have talked to you about New Jack once before during the show, but for those that may not remember, New Jack, of course, is most notably known for his time at Extreme Championship Wrestling, or ECW. Right. Even though he did start out with Jim Crockett in the Smoky Mountain Wrestling organization in Tennessee, New Jack was known for being extreme, right? Even though the WWE owns all of that footage from ECW and from Smoky Mountain Wrestling, they won't air it on TV because, of course, it's for reasons, and then a legit reason. Because, of course, WWE has now moved over to being PG-13. And there's nothing PG-13 about New Jack. New Jack came along in the early to mid 90s and was part of the tag team, the Gangsters, with Mustafa. The wrestler by the name of Mustafa. Mustafa was crazy too. Matter of fact, Mustafa was beyond crazy. But the thing was, his very first promo he cut after jumping wrestling legends, the Rock and Roll Express, and leaving them in a bloody pole. Them.
Yes.
They cut a promo, and they ended the promo by saying, "Shout out to O.J. Simpson. There are 2 less white people out here on the planet." That was how he cut his promo as a gangster. Now, I'll say this, right? As poor taste as that may have been, to put that into his character was wonderfully done because it got the audience to do what? Hate him.
Yes.
Right?
Instant heel. Instant heel.
Instant heel. Yeah. Instant heel. So much so that the Nashville, hold on for a minute. Sorry about that. So yeah, he cut that promo and as an instantaneous heel, and it got him so much heat that the Nashville chapter of the NAACP wrote a letter to Smoky Mountain Wrestling asking him to be cut from the promotion. All he did was eat that up like it was candy. Wow. And oh my God, if you get an opportunity, it should be on YouTube. All the promos that he cut are on there. My God, New Jack was the best at creating heat, and he had some of the most memorable moments in extreme wrestling history. I'm not going to talk about him right now, but if you just Google New Jack right now on YouTube, you most definitely will see all of them. One of my favorites, though, that I will talk about real quick is the time he tased a dude who almost killed him in a match once. He tased him, and then he threw him off of a 25-foot-high scaffolding. His attempt was to have, because there were tables lined up on the ground and in the ring, he was attempting to have him miss the tables. He just barely hit the tables and hit the ring, and all he did was fracture his ankle. Thank God. Thank God for babies and dummies, because that dude should not be with us right now. But yes, New Jack would cut these promos, had these great matches. They were extremely memorable because they were extreme. And the thing is, it was weird because you never knew where the line of Jerome Young stopped and the line where New Jack started.
Mm-hmm.
But he was 100% authentic. And that's the thing that I love about him is even though I didn't become a fan of his until late, you couldn't front on his realness.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't front on that. And with that said, man, the only reason I bring him up because, of course, he is an alum of Clark Atlanta University. So, he did get his degree from there. So I shout him out for being an HBCU alum there and being an innovator in a very difficult arena of extreme sports wrestling, even though, yes, it's predetermined, but still the physical things that they did and the things he did in order to get fan reaction, be it positive or negative, is only matched by a few. And the only ones that I can think that can match him that way are also pro wrestling greats too. So shout out to Jerome Young, aka New Jack. You will be missed.
Nice. Speaking of random shit, we got to the random shit segment. Have you checked out what Tony LaRussa said? Manager of the Chicago White Sox. Well, basically, let's just fast forward to last night.
Okay.
Quick. Dude was pissed that, night before last, I should say, that a guy who's a rookie who happens to be leading his team in hitting, batting, I think 364 or something like that.
Wow.
He turned a 3-0 pitch into a home run. This late in the game the other night, they're up 13-4, or 15-4, and it went 16-4. But it was off of a position player who had to sub in as an emergency pitcher. This is very late, and again, this is like 8th inning, I think it was. And apparently LaRussa and the third base coach was trying to run out into the dugout, trying to get his attention, say, don't swing. Because it's one of those stupid ass unwritten rules in baseball. Apparently
there we go again. The unwritten rules, yeah.
Apparently, I guess if you're up by a lot late in the game, and if the other team essentially put up the white flag and having a position player pitch, which
that's what they did. Wow.
By the way, which was a 43-mile-an-hour pitch, if I'm not mistaken. It was less than 50-mile-an-hour pitch.
So he basically gave him a softball.
He teed him up. It was literally a tee-up. So it was a 3-0 pitch, and you don't. Apparently, I didn't know this. Apparently, you don't swing on a 3-0 pitch that late in the game when you're up big.
Oh, when you're up big? No, you don't do that. No.
You're professionals.
Yeah.
This ain't little league. You get paid.
Yeah.
If you don't want to get in a situation, just stop and pitch better. Hell, I don't know. Field better. Play better.
Yeah. But you know what? You know what the funny thing is?
What?
Because my guess is what? Did he hit a home run?
Yeah, he killed it.
Yeah, he probably hit the stuffing out that ball. But you know what? If his home run numbers are down, he would be criticized by the organization for having low home run numbers and would be
and the manager himself,
yes, and would be somehow asked to lead the organization. So it's funny how that thing goes both ways, right? I understand in the situation how that could be a problem and people can look at that negatively, but at the same time, they look at you negatively if you're not producing either. Now, I understand that's candy. Yeah, it's easy to do that in that situation. But you know what? They're not going to sit back and look at that situation and be like, during the off season, it was because someone pitched to you a slow pitch as a position player playing pitcher, and you got no. They're not going to remember that. They're not. Right. So
and also,
do what you can.
And what's worse was the next night, Apparently this is against the Twins. So apparently one of the Twins players threw behind this kid. I called it, I forgot the name on top of my head, this rookie. He's a baller, by the way, for Chicago.
Chicago, yeah.
And so LaRussa turned around and said that he was mad at that.
Because LaRussa's old school.
Yeah.
He's
and then
school.
Apparently, I don't know if there's an issue in the clubhouse which is a shame, which would be a shame because I picked Chicago to win the AL Central. And they're ahead, again, I know it's early, only 40 some odd games in, but 162, but still, they're in first place and they're playing well. And LaRussa, much as I crack on him of being crotchety and too old school, he's a damn good manager.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he has his team balling, but he had to come out and say that there's no issue in the clubhouse over what he said. Because he said,
how much do you believe
he's old school? I don't believe it.
See, and that's the problem, right?
Yeah.
Because if LaRussa came out in public and criticized, and didn't support his player, that's where that problem lies. He should have pulled him to the side, talked to the young man, and didn't even answer no questions or address the situation if asked by the president. Because of course they're going to ask about it, but you a vet, you an OG, deal with the situation like an OG. And don't throw your guy under the bus and say that I would have, I don't have no problem with it. Because I understand why you don't have an issue with it. Because I get it, right? Even though I still think it's old school and it's petty and it's something that's going to end up destroying the game. And yes, I'm just like you also. If you don't want it to happen, play better.
Yes. Thank you. You're professionals. This ain't little league.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And your feelings hurt. Man, if you don't get out your feelings, dude, stop playing.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, I understand both sides of this, but I still lean a little bit heavier to the play better thing.
Right. Exactly.
But like I said, LaRussa should have put him to the side, dealt with that in clubhouse, and not let the media know, because that's how you end up creating rifts in this organization.
Especially with his best player too. You don't.
Yeah. And this is a different time, Tony. You probably could have gotten away with that back then and criticized your player, and your player wouldn't have caused a mutiny. But this is a different time. It is, and which is a positive and a negative, and you got to be aware of that. And hopefully you can repair this, because I don't like seeing media market teams like Cincinnati, like Chicago, like San Diego, Oakland, when they're doing well, end up having something stopping them from succeeding, like this off the field.
Right.
If you're going to lose on the field. Don't let anything off the field be a detriment to you.
Right. Well said. Well said. Do you have any random shit to add?
Nah, player, just hoping that the Bullets/Wizards put in work tomorrow. Even though I like their chances better against Brooklyn than I did against Philly, as long as they get into the playoffs, it is what it is. But I'm a little concerned based upon what happened last night. But they are going to be playing in DC. Hopefully they get up and they're capable of getting this dub. So let's go Wiz.
All right. And on that note, we'll call it. Thank you all for tuning in to tonight's edition of the Klown Hour podcast. Please check us out on YouTube. Please subscribe. You'll be glad you did. Please check out my man, Dwayne Nash, on the Yards HBCU Sports, the rest of all things HBCU Sports. It's Lazy Radio every Tuesday night on Facebook Live. And last but not least, herosports.com as well. Check out his good work there as well. Don't forget to buy the merch, cafepress.com.
Get it.
Search for the Clown Time Sports as well. Again, the description will be, the link will be in the description tomorrow when I post this video. So please check it out there. And wash your hands. I know more people being vaccinated, but please make sure you're vaccinated. Wear a mask.
Got my number 2 today, player.
Thank you. Welcome to the club. All right, do your dance.
94, and I'm being 94% in a minute.
There you go. Lap it up. If you want a Miller Rock like my man did, please get vaccinated. Okay? Don't be an anti-vaxxer. Don't be a dumbass. Believe in science. Get your ass vaccinated. I want to go to games again without a mask. I'm sure you want to go to games again without a mask and not worry about getting sick. please get your shots and wear your mask in the meantime while we get out of this pandemic, and keep washing your hands as well. And last but not least, be safe, take care, enjoy the NBA playoffs. I know we will. So until next time, peace out.
Peace.